My girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend, and now, 5 years later, just before my wedding, one unexpected truth completely turned my world upside down. I was 29 when everything fell apart between me, my ex-girlfriend Claire, and my so-called best friend, Marcus. Claire and I'd been in a relationship for a while. And while it wasn't perfect, I never once suspected there was anything going on behind my back. Sure, there were a few things that might have seemed off in hindsight, like how she'd laugh a little too much at Marcus's corny jokes, or spend hours in his room watching movies on his big TV. But I shrugged it off because I trusted both of them. I thought nothing could break that trust. Lesson learned, I guess. One evening, I came home from work, and they were both acting strange, too nice, overcompensating, like they were trying to act normal. Claire, who never cooked, was suddenly offering to make me dinner, and Marcus was casually suggesting we go grab a burger. It fell off. They seemed guilty, trying to cover something up, but honestly, I didn't think too much about it at the time. I thought maybe they were just in a good mood, or maybe I was just tired and overthinking things, so I let it go. Then one night, the truth came out in the worst possible way. I was dead asleep when my phone buzzed around 2 a.m. It was a message from Kyle, a mutual friend. He sent me a screenshot of a conversation Claire was having with one of her friends, confessing that she and Marcus had been hooking up for months. My mind was spinning. I wanted to believe it was a sick joke, but I knew Kyle, he wouldn't lie about something like that. The message was simple. Dude, I thought you should know. That was it. I stared at my phone in disbelief, my hands shaking, feeling the ground fall out from under me. Every good memory I had with Claire and all the nights spent with Marcus vanished in an instant. This was the girl I was planning to marry, and my friend, the one I'd let stay with us while he got back on his feet, had betrayed me in the worst way. I felt like the biggest idiot. A few minutes later, I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I had to confront them. I stormed out of my room and walked straight to Marcus's door. I didn't even knock. I just threw it open, and there they were, sitting together on Marcus's bed, looking like two guilty kids caught in the act. Their faces told me everything I needed to know. Claire stuttered out some nonsense about wanting to tell me, and how it just happened, like I was supposed to buy that garbage. I was in shock. Everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. There was shouting. I honestly don't remember half of what I said, but I was furious. Marcus, trying to act tough, told me it wasn't a big deal, that Claire and I weren't even working out anyway. Claire sat there looking like she might cry, but I didn't care. If she was that unhappy, she had months to talk to me, months to end things instead of sneaking around behind my back. As the tension started to die down, I told both of them to get out of my life. I didn't care where they went, I just wanted them gone. Marcus tried to talk to me, saying he didn't mean for it to go this far, like that somehow made it better. Meanwhile, Claire kept saying she never wanted it to go this way. All I heard were excuses, empty words that couldn't fix the damage they'd caused. That night, I crashed on a friend's couch because I needed to be as far away from that apartment as possible. The next morning, after getting zero sleep, I decided it was time to leave for good. I went back to the apartment to pack up my stuff, and of course they were both still there. Claire tried to stop me, begging me not to leave, saying she never wanted to lose me as a friend, but friends don't do what she did. I packed everything I could into bags and boxes without caring how messy it looked. I just wanted out. Marcus stood there, avoiding my gaze like the coward he was. When I was finally done, I told them I never wanted to see either of them again. Claire looked like she wanted to say something, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I just left and didn't look back. That was it. I was done with them. I was done with the whole damn situation. I didn't tell our mutual friend about what had happened. Honestly, I figured they'd find out sooner or later. What really stung, though, was how they didn't care. A few of them sent me messages saying they were sorry about the drama. But when it came down to it, they chose to stay friend with Claire and Marcus. I didn't know whether to laugh or get pissed off, but it confirmed everything I needed to know. I cut all of them off. Every last one. I went back to my home state, changed my number, deleted all my social media, and disappeared from that entire friend group. At first, it felt brutal, like I was leaving behind everything I knew, but deep down, I knew it was the right decision. There was no way I could move on if I kept holding on to people who didn't have my back, so I let it all go and I never looked back. Not once. The first few months were tough. There were days when I questioned if I was being too harsh or letting my anger control me. But every time I thought about reaching out, I remembered that night. The way they looked at me, like I was the one who didn't belong, like I was ruining some love story they'd cooked up in their heads. And in the end, I wasn't the one sneaking around and lying to people. Life wasn't easy after that. I went through a rough patch trying to rebuild everything on my own, but slowly I found new friends, got my career back on track, and started making progress bit by bit. I built a life I could be proud of, and eventually I met Sophie. She's everything Claire wasn't: honest, loyal, and, most importantly, respectful. She knew about my past and was completely understanding of it. Sophie respected that I'd left all the toxic people behind, never trying to drag me back into that mess. With her, I finally started to feel happy again. And now here I am, years after everything, engaged to the most incredible woman I could ever imagine, and miles away from the drama that once consumed my life. I thought I was free and clear, that I'd left all the baggage behind for good. But as it turns out, I was wrong. Claire and Marcus weren't finished with me yet. So here I was, finally in a good place after everything that happened with Claire and Marcus. I thought I'd put that mess behind me for good. I cut all ties, moved on with my life, and got engaged to Sophie. Things were looking up, and was convinced that chapter was over. But of course, life had other plans. It all started with one simple post. I'm not really big on social media, but I thought, hey, why not share the good news? So I posted a picture of me and Sophie with a simple caption about our engagement. Just a shot of us looking happy, nothing over the top. I figured it would get a few likes from family and a handful of friends I still kept in touch with. But boy, I didn't expect it to drag all that old drama back into my life. A couple of days later, my phone buzzed. It was a message notification from Claire. My stomach dropped. After years of complete silence, she just pops up out of nowhere. I didn't even open the message. I just stared at her name on the screen, and all the old feelings, anger, betrayal, came rushing back. My first instinct was to just delete it, but I couldn't help but wonder, why on earth would she reach out now? I hadn't thought about her in forever, and I was happy with Sophie. I didn't need closure or answers, so I blocked her. Simple as that, problem solved, or so I thought. Later that night, I told Sophie about it. I didn't want any secrets between us, especially over something that felt like a weird blast from the past. She just laughed and said I'd done the right thing. She even went ahead and blocked Claire too, just in case we both figured that would be the end of it. Claire could have her closure or whatever and move on. But then the fake profiles started popping up. At first, I didn't notice because I wasn't paying much attention to social media. But Sophie, being as sharp as she is, started getting weird friend requests from random accounts. No posts, just generic profile pictures. After a few of these, she suspected it was Claire, and I couldn't disagree. Who else would be this persistent? It was just annoying. Honestly, I hadn't thought about Claire in so long, and now she was playing games like we were still in high school. Eventually, I'd had enough. I decided to just delete my social media altogether. If I wasn't online, I figured she'd have no way to keep pestering me. Before I deleted everything, I sent a quick message from one of the fake profiles that had finally messaged me directly. I told her to leave me alone, that I wanted nothing to do with her. I didn't give her a chance to respond. I blocked her right after hitting send. Then I wiped the whole account. I was done. I figured that would make it clear to her that I wanted nothing more to do with any of this drama. But I was wrong. Apparently, when I shut down my accounts, Claire decided to go around me entirely. A few days later, my sister Mandy called me out of the blue. Mandy and I are close, but we don't talk every day. So when I saw her name, I thought maybe she just wanted to chat about the engagement or something. But when I answered, I could tell something was off. She didn't even let me say hello before she blurted out, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something weird." Naturally, I was thinking, great, what now? She told me Claire had contacted her. And not just a casual, "Hey, how's it going?" message. Claire had gone straight into some bizarre story, claiming that I had a son. Yeah, you heard that right, a son. At first, I laughed. It seemed ridiculous. I told Mandy it was probably just Claire trying to get attention or something, but Mandy didn't laugh. She said Claire was serious and sounded desperate. Mandy even tried brushing her off, but Claire was persistent. She'd send her pictures of this kid, claiming he looked just like me, saying how she never wanted to keep it a secret, blah, blah, blah. I didn't buy it for a second. If this kid was mine, why hadn't she told me about him years ago? Why hadn't she tried contacting me for child support, or at the very least, told me when she found out she was pregnant? It made no sense. But Mandy said Claire seemed really insistent. I could tell Mandy wasn't sure what to believe either, which only made the whole thing feel weirder. This mess was messing with my head. I tried brushing it off as just another one of Claire's lies, but a part of me couldn't help but wonder what if she was telling the truth. The timing seemed too convenient, and honestly, I wasn't in the mood to trust anything she said, but the thought of having a kid out there, one that might be mine, was something I couldn't just ignore. For the next few days, I couldn't focus. I'd be at work, and my mind would keep wandering back to Claire and this supposed son. Sophie noticed something was off and kept asking if I was okay. I didn't want to drag her into this mess, so I told her it was just work stress. But the truth was, my mind was all over the place, the idea of possibly having a kid out there. My kid didn't sit right with me. Finally, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to put an end to this, once and for all. I wasn't about to let Claire show up at my door, dragging me back in her chaos, so I called up a lawyer. I didn't want to deal with her directly. I figured a lawyer could handle it professionally. Sent her a letter, something official, telling her to back off. I just wanted her out of my life for good. No more games, no more drama. I explained everything to the lawyer. The messages, the fake profiles, that I have a son story. He listened and nodded, saying he'd take care of it. He said he'd send her a letter demanding proof if she was serious, or else to leave me alone. Handing it off to him felt like a huge relief. I didn't want to handle Claire directly, and having a lawyer take over gave me some peace of mind. Like this might finally be settled. I thought getting the lawyer involved would end it. The weight of it all lifted when I handed it over. I was ready to be done with Claire and her games, or so I thought. I expected that once she got the letter, she'd back off, but just days later, the lawyer called, asking to meet with me in person to discuss the situation. I thought maybe Claire had finally given up, so I walked into his office feeling pretty calm. He didn't say much at first, just handed me an envelope. Inside were photos, several of them, of a little boy, and to be honest, he looked exactly like me. It felt like I was staring at a photo of myself from years ago. Same dark hair, same eyes, even the same smile. I sat there stunned, my mind racing between anger and confusion. The lawyer explained that Claire had sent these photos along with a note outlining the timeline. She claimed she got pregnant shortly after I caught her with Marcus. They both assumed the child was his and never told me because they thought Marcus was the father. It wasn't until later, when they tried for more children, that they discovered Marcus was sterile. That's when their doubts began. I'll admit, I was skeptical. Claire had always been less than trustworthy, and this just felt too convenient. But the pictures, they were hard to ignore. The kid looked so much like me. Still, I wasn't about to take her word for it. I told my lawyer to arrange a DNA test. I needed real proof before I could process any of this. The waiting was unbearable. Every day felt like a week, and I couldn't concentrate on anything. I filled Sophie in, not wanting to keep her in the dark. She was supportive, but I could tell she was concerned. This wasn't just some petty drama. It was about my kid, and if he was mine, everything would change. Sophie stood by me, reassuring me that no matter what, we'd face it together. After what felt like forever, the results finally came in. My lawyer called with the verdict. It was a match. I didn't know how to feel. Relieved, shocked, angry, maybe all at once. I just learned I had a son I never knew about, a son who'd grown up thinking Marcus was his dad, with no idea who I was. Finding out you're a father is one thing, but realizing you've missed the first 5 years of your kid's life because someone kept that from you, it was a lot to process. My head was spinning, trying to come to terms with this little boy being mine. But almost immediately, my thoughts turned to Marcus. How could he raise my child as his own, knowing there was a possibility it wasn't his? And Claire, she had years to tell me, to give me a heads up, but she kept it quiet. Only now, when my life was stable, did she decide to reach out. It felt like she was using me, seeing an opportunity now that I had things together. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about the kid. Claire saw a chance, and she took it. That realization hit me hard, and the anger flared up again. But then I had to focus on my son. This wasn't his fault. He didn't ask to be caught in this mess. And I wasn't going to abandon him just because his parents had lied to me. I told my lawyer to get in touch with Claire and Marcus. I was going to be involved in my son's life. I demanded visitation rights and said I'd be paying child support. I wasn't going to let them control the situation anymore, especially after everything they'd hidden. As soon as my lawyer mentioned visitation, Marcus lost it. From what my lawyer told me, Marcus insisted he was the real father and didn't want me anywhere near the kid. The nerve of him, he cheats with my girlfriend, raises my son without telling me, and now wants to pretend I don't exist. I was livid. I told my lawyer to make it clear to Marcus. If I was paying child support, I wasn't just sending money. I was going to be a part of my son's life, no matter what Marcus thought. Naturally, Claire tried to smooth things over. She suggested we could work out some arrangement where I'd pay, but maybe visitation could be discreet to avoid confusing the kid. But I wasn't having it. If they wanted money, they'd better be ready to let me be a part of my son's life, plain and simple. And if they wouldn't agree to that, I'd start a savings account for my son, letting him access it when he turned 18, but I wasn't going to play along with their twisted setup. The whole situation felt surreal. Here I was, trying to step up and be a dad, a role I never imagined I'd have to fight for so soon. And all I got was resistance. I couldn't understand their logic. They wanted my money, but didn't want me involved in any other way. It felt like they were trying to pick and choose which parts of me they wanted in their lives, like I was just some source of cash they could call on when it suited them. I wasn't going to stand for it. I decided to push back harder. I told my lawyer to make it clear that if I was paying child support, I'd be pursuing full visitation rights, or whatever legal rights I had as his biological father. I wasn't going to let them turn me into some background figure in my own son's life. And if they didn't agree, they wouldn't see a dime from me. I'd rather save up for my son's future than let them control the situation. Claire and Marcus tried every guilt trip in the book, calling me selfish and accusing me of trying to ruin their family. It was ridiculous, coming from the two people who had hidden a whole child from me. Selfish? If anyone was selfish, it was them, pretending to be this perfect family while hiding the truth from me all along. So here I was, ready to fight for my son. I didn't know how this would all play out, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let them push me out of his life. They may have kept him from me for 5 years, but I'd be damned if I let them keep him from me any longer. After telling my lawyer I was in this for the long haul, we got serious about what I could actually do here legally. It wasn't as straightforward as it seemed. Claire and Marcus had a head start. 5 years. And because Marcus was on the birth certificate, he was legally considered the father. My lawyer explained that even though I was the biological father, it wasn't simple to just step in and claim my rights. It would take time, money, and, well, a lot of patience. Patience is not my strong suit, and Claire and Marcus didn't make it easy. My lawyer reached out to set up a visitation, but Marcus refused to even sit down. He sent a long, dramatic email about how he was the only dad my son had ever known and didn't want to disrupt the kid's life by letting me into it. He actually used the word disrupt, like my son was some project he was working on, and he didn't want him messing things up, this guy. Meanwhile, Claire kept trying to negotiate some weird middle ground. She suggested I could see my son, but only if it was on her terms. She wanted me to agree to visit him maybe once every few months, and only if Marcus wasn't around. Her idea was to keep things low-key, so the kid wouldn't get confused about who his dad was. But here's the thing. I'm his dad, biologically and morally. I wasn't going to let them shove me into some hidden side role in my own son's life. I told my lawyer that their terms were unacceptable. Either they let me into his life as his father, or I wasn't going to give them a penny. They couldn't have it both ways, no matter how much they tried to spin it as reasonable. And of course, they lost it. Claire started sending emails filled with guilt trips, accusing me of hurting my son by refusing to contribute financially. Marcus, on the other hand, went full-on territorial, sending messages saying I was only showing up because I didn't want my past mistake to haunt me. Mistake? My son wasn't a mistake. If anything, the only mistake here was trusting either of them in the first place. So, my lawyer went back and forth with them for weeks. By now, the emails were a mix of attempts to shame me, guilt-trip me, and persuade me to give up. But every time, I'd sit there thinking about my son. He didn't know me yet, but I wanted him to know when he was old enough that I fought to be in his life. I wasn't just going to write checks and stand aside while someone else played the role that should have been mine. Finally, after what felt like ages, we managed to get them to agree to a sit-down meeting. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. Claire showed up first, looking tense like she was about to face a board of directors. Marcus came in a few minutes later, didn't look at me once, and just sat down with his arms crossed, like he was staging some silent protest. The energy in that room could have been cut with a knife. Claire started talking, going on about how she'd only kept this a secret because she thought it was for the best. For the best? I asked her, barely keeping my voice steady. How was keeping a kid from his father for 5 years for the best? She stammered through some excuse about thinking Marcus was his dad and not wanting to complicate things by bringing me into it. Then Marcus spoke up, finally deciding to join the conversation, going full-on defensive. I raised him. I taught him to ride his bike. I've been there for every scraped knee, every school project, he said, like I was some intruder trying to steal his kid. I get it, he's been there, he's done the dad stuff. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm the biological father and I deserve the chance to be there too. We went back and forth for hours, endlessly repeating ourselves. They kept bringing up what was supposedly best for my son, but all I could hear was what was easiest for them. They wanted me to fade into the background, just a paycheck to fund their life without having any real presence. Their go-to line was something like, "We don't want to confuse him, but my son was 5. He was going to start wondering about me sooner or later." How long did they think they could keep this up? Finally, my lawyer had to step in and make our position clear. If they wanted financial support, then I was going to need regular visitation. Simple as that. Marcus looked like he was about to lose it. But I wasn't budging. This was about my son, about my right to be involved in his life. Claire tried one last tactic, saying maybe we could revisit the idea in a year or two after my son had adjusted more, but I was done compromising. I told him if I couldn't have fair visitation, I'd set up a savings account for him. He'd have that money waiting when he turned 18, and he'd know I tried to be in his life. I wasn't going to be a silent ATM while they pretended I didn't exist. Claire's face fell when I said that, clearly caught off guard by my firmness. Maybe she thought I'd just cave and pay up to avoid the trouble. But that wasn't happening. I wasn't going to be some background figure in my son's life just because it was easier for them. I wanted him to know me, to see that I cared enough to fight for him. The meeting ended with no real resolution, which was frustrating, but I felt like I made my position clear. They knew I wasn't going to disappear, no matter how much they wanted me to. If they wanted my money, they were going to have to give something in return. Walking out, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Anger because of what they'd put me through, and sadness because in some twisted way, Marcus was right. He had been there during the years I couldn't be, and I couldn't change that. But I wasn't giving up. I was going to be part of my son's life, whether they liked it or not. Walking away from that tense meeting, I was drained but determined. I knew Claire and Marcus were going to make this as hard as possible, but I wasn't going to just walk away from my son. The stakes were too high, and I wasn't going to let them decide how involved I could be. The frustration was eating at me, though. It felt like every time I took a step forward, they blocked it. A couple of weeks passed, and things got quiet. My lawyer and I kept pushing to get the visitation rights officially set, and I was ready to take it to court if needed. I wasn't backing down. I just wanted to be there for my son. Then Claire reached out in a different way. A message with no legal talk, just a personal note. She bypassed my lawyer and sent it directly to me, which took me by surprise. It felt like she was trying to appeal to me personally, to soften me up, maybe convince me to change my mind. Her message started friendly. She said something like, "I've been thinking about this, and I know this has been hard for you too." She mentioned how she hadn't meant to hurt me back then, that in her mind, she'd been doing what was best for our son. She added that Marcus was still struggling to accept the situation and felt threatened by my sudden presence. I won't lie. Part of me wondered if she was finally trying to make things right. But I knew better. She hadn't changed overnight. She kept my son from me for years, let Marcus act like the father, and only admitted the truth when it suited her. Her message felt less like an apology and more like another attempt to get her way, but I kept reading, wanting to see where this was going. Then came her real offer. She suggested that we could work out a relationship between me and my son, but only if I agreed to limit it to a few visits a year and never telling the truth about who I was. She called it a way to keep the peace for everyone. She acted like she was doing me a favor, offering me a tiny part of my son's life, while Marcus would stay the main figure. That was the moment any thought of giving her the benefit of the doubt disappeared. A few visits a year and silence about who I was. I wasn't going to be some glorified uncle in my own son's life. If she thought I'd be okay with that, she clearly didn't know me. I shot back a message, direct and to the point. If I'm paying child support, I'm his dad, period. Take it or leave it. No reply. I figured that was the last word on the matter. A couple of days went by, and just when I thought things were quieting down, Marcus called, the first time I'd heard his voice in years. And let me tell you, it stirred up a wave of anger, but I forced myself to stay calm and let him talk. He started by saying he wanted to clear the air and that he thought we could work this out like adults. I had my doubts, but I kept listening. He admitted that he'd been struggling with the whole situation, that he was trying to accept it. He even threw in a bit about respecting that I wanted to step up and be involved, but then he got to the real reason for his call. He said he was afraid my involvement would confuse our son, that it might make him feel like he had two dads, and that, according to Marcus, wasn't good for a kid his age. Honestly, he almost got me with the whole "let's work this out" talk, but the more he spoke, the more it became clear. He wasn't trying to find common ground. He was trying to get me to back off, to stay in the background where he wanted me. I cut him off. I told him flat out, if I'm going to pay, I'm going to be a part of his life. I'm not here to make things easier for you or for Claire. This is about my son. Marcus tried to come back with something about me ruining the family, but I wasn't hearing it. I hung up, feeling like that was probably the last civil conversation we'd have, if you could even call it that. After that, things went quiet again, but I knew the next steps would be legal. It was like a calm before the storm, where I just focused on preparing for whatever fight they'd throw me next. But I wasn't backing down. I was going to be a real father to my son, not some occasional visitor or shadow in his life. Through all this, Sophie kept me grounded. She reminded me that I was doing the right thing, Even when it felt like the world was against me, she was there through every update, every frustrating conversation, every new tactic Claire and Marcus tried. I couldn't have done this without her. One night, as we were talking about the future, Sophie said something that really stuck with me. She said, "Your son deserves to know the real you, and he'll thank you one day for fighting to be there." It was exactly what I needed to hear. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting back at Claire and Marcus. It was about my son and making sure he knew that his real dad cared enough to fight for him. So here I am, still fighting, still waiting for the legal process to play out. I don't know how long it'll take or what obstacles they'll throw at me next, but I know I'm not stopping. One day, my son will know the truth, and he'll know that I did everything I could to be there for him. It's been a rough journey, but I wouldn't change a thing because at the end of the day, he's worth it. Last update. After months of back and forths, court dates, and more frustration than I can put into words, we finally reached a settlement. I get regular visitation rights, scheduled times to be with my son, just me and him without Claire and Marcus's rules hanging over my head. It wasn't the perfect outcome I wanted. I wanted to be his dad in every way, but given the circumstances, it was something. The first visit felt surreal. I remember standing outside the park where we'd agreed to meet, my heart pounding like I was meeting him for the first time. In a way, when he ran over to me, there was this moment where it felt like everything clicked. I saw myself in him. The same curious look, the same wild energy. I don't think I stopped smiling the entire time. We played, talked, laughed, and he showed me all the things he loved, just like any other kid for that hour or two. It felt like I was part of his life, like I was his dad. It's not easy. I still have to see Claire and Marcus, still deal with the boundaries they put up, and sometimes I leave feeling like I've barely scratched the surface of knowing him. But every visit, I feel like he's opening up to me more. I'm not just some stranger anymore. I'm his dad. And he knows it, even if he doesn't fully understand it yet. As for Claire and Marcus, they're doing their thing. I think they're finally starting to accept that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm a permanent part of this kid's life. Whether they like it or not, they don't have to like it, but they respect it, and that's good enough for now. Sophie's been my rock through all of this. She's gotten to know my son too, and seeing her with him has only made me more certain that she's the one. We're planning our wedding, and while I can't be his dad full-time yet, I've got this dream of one day having him by my side, maybe as my best man when he's older, standing with me as a real part of my family. It's not a fairy tale ending. I won't ever get those first 5 years back, but every visit, every laugh, every time he calls me dad in his own little way, it makes the whole fight worth it. And maybe one day, when he's old enough, I'll tell him the whole story, not to make him pick sides, but so he knows that from the very start I fought to be there, and I'll keep showing up for as long as he'll have me.